Hello, USIC family and friends. It's no coincidence that we asked Chris Evert to join us for a conversation during Roland Garros. With 7 titles, Chris holds the WTA record for French Open championships. And we're not just talking about the current French Open, we're going to be talking about a lot of things about the contemporary world of tennis and other aspects of the game too. But when it comes to clay, Chrissie's story is unbelievable. She won 125 consecutive matches on clay, more than any other man or woman in the history of tennis, including Rafael Nadal, who had a mere 81 consecutive wins. I referenced our USIC family in my greeting at the start, and Chrissie is definitely family. She has been a major USIC supporter by generously sharing 50% of the cost of training Gene Scott scholars at the Evert Academy. And she's done a fantastic job. Former Gene Scott scholar Lauren Davis is currently competing on the WTA and has been ranked as high as 26th in the world. We're planning to send another talented Gene Scott scholar to the Evert Academy in the near future. We hope that everyone listening tonight will consider making a donation to our USIC Gene Scott Scholarship Fund. The sooner we can reach our goal, the next future star will be on his or her way to Evert Academy. So now, please, let's welcome Chrissie to the Zoom. Good to see you, Chris.
Hi, great to see you too, Joel.
So thanks for joining us. It's a real pleasure. And you're known as the Queen of Clay, but I'm not so sure you're just the Queen of Clay. You cover a lot. You won 18 singles majors, 10 of them were on clay, but 8 were on other surfaces, 5 on grass, 3 on hard courts. So we're going to explore a lot more than just the clay. But since it is Roland Garros time, when you start, just what made you so effective on clay?
I think what helped was that I grew up on clay, being in Florida, and I started playing tennis when I was 6 years old. So I kind of got it at a young age. I understood the sliding. I understood the consistency. I understood the drop shot, how important that was. But I think, and as people are watching the French Open, I think people will realize that it has so much to do with moving, sliding into the ball. And a lot of people who are brought up on a hard court or a grass court have a little trouble in the sliding. But I realized at a young age that, remember, I used a wood racket back in the 70s. So we weren't overpowering opponents. We weren't hitting outright winners. So I realized that on clay, you have to be able to have that patience to hit a lot of balls, and placement into the corners was just as important as power, and just to wear down my opponents. So, it just became really a part of my trademark.
You wore them down. I think a common score I associate with you is 7-5, 6-1, 6-4, 6-0. It was pretty unbelievable. It's like they'd huff and they'd puff, and you would just kind of. And then since our members are players, if you may, what's a tip on how to learn to slide well on clay from a physical movement standpoint?
You just got to try it. I mean, the thing is that you always should you have to be careful to always have your balance. I mean, this isn't kind of like, I'm just going to slide here and slide there like you're ice skating. It's just basically you want to run on clay with firm footing. But sometimes when you're stretching wide for shots, that's the time to just let that foot go and then hit the ball, then get back into the court. So it's something that it's muscle memory. You just have to keep doing it.
And the balance, I mean, you're unbelievable. I mean, I've watched so much of you playing back when you were playing, and then more recently when studying you. I mean, you look like you have a phone book on your head, your balance that you could hit that way. And you worked on that, though. That's not something you come out of the womb.
Yeah, I think that, again, being brought up on clay, my dad was my coach, and he emphasized footwork, getting into position. And I think timing and balance and even rhythm was a big deal, because, again, we didn't have the power that they have. We didn't have the Western grips to hit the big topspin shots. And we knew we weren't going to hit a winner on the third shot. We knew we had to just stay out there and grind it out and wear our opponents down. Now, halfway in my career, I changed over to a graphite racket, and then it turned out to be more of a power game. Then I could, hit more winners at that point.
That's what I was going to talk to you about. The game changed in the 80s. Your big rival kind of upped the ante on the physical front. So why don't you talk about some of the improvements Martina made, even to beat you on clay, and how that helped you to improve on your favorite surface?
I think that, well, my rivalry with her was unbelievable. We played 80 times. And in the beginning, I had her number, and then she started beating me. And then we both, at the end of our career, we both kind of had it evened out. But in the middle of our career, I think that because I'd beaten her on clay so many times, I forced her to learn how to be more patient. And I forced her to, I think, focus on every point. I helped her with the mental part of the game as well. And she helped me with the physical part of the game, going into the gym and lifting weights and getting stronger and putting a little bit more on my serve. But Martina, a couple of times, she really cleaned my clock on the red clay. She was a very, very good clay court player because she had good ground strokes. I mean, I think people only associate her with serve and volley, but she had a wicked forehand and she had a wicked slice backhand, and she could be consistent and move well. She was a wonderful athlete. So I probably I don't want to say instilled, but I probably encouraged her to be more patient, and she probably encouraged me to be more powerful.
Right. So it's an interesting little skill building. It's like the Buddhist, my opponent is my teacher. And
Yeah.
of the 80 matches you played, arguably the best, perhaps the best, came at Roland Garros, the 1985 final. So perhaps you could zoom in a little bit and maybe take us through some of that.
I don't think she would think it's the best because I won it. And it wasn't necessarily the highest quality match, but it was intriguing, exciting, seesaw. She had leads and then I'd catch up. Then she would have another lead, then I'd catch up. Then I had a lead and she'd catch up. So I if I'm not mistaken, was it 7-5 in the third? Was that the score? 7-5 in the third. That was, she had beaten me 13 times in a row for 2.5 years. And I remember that year I beat her in Miami, and that was the 14th time that we played but that 14th time I beat her. And I think that just gave me a little bit more belief. But even when I played her a few months later in Paris, she was seeded 1. Nobody expected me to win. Everybody counted me out. She was dominant still. And I don't know how I won that match. I really don't, because I had my doubts, but I tried to fake it. And I tried to force myself to say, just Chrissie, be positive, be positive. She's human. And then I saw her get a little tight in the match. And I think that's why it's really important for people to be aware of what's going on the other side of the net, not only on your side of the net. I saw her get a little tight. I started coming into the net a little more. She wasn't passing me. She was hitting balls in the net. And I saw kind of a look of, whoa, bewilderment. Like, why is she coming into the net? Why is she taking that position away from me? So I changed my game a little bit, which I had to by coming in, and I won the match. Champions are stubborn, and I was stubborn for 13 matches and never came into the net, even though my coach Dennis Rawlston kept telling me to. And finally, when I did, I took a risk, and it worked for me. And then after that, I beat her the next year in '86 at the French Open. So, but we did, as you said, we had some fascinating matches because of the different contrast in styles.
This is I traffic in this kind of data. That your '86 title came the same year you were the queen, 7, the same year that the king was born. He was born in '86. In fact, he was born on June 3rd. So that's a pretty neat. I love that. I love that symmetry. Wow. And I brought that. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I've used that nugget, I could probably make a car payment. But wow,
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So beyond Roland Garros, of the other 8 slams you won, are there 1 or 2 that are especially memorable for you? I have an idea, but it's your career, not mine. So let's hear.
I think the U.S. Open, when I beat Tracy in the semifinals. Again, there's another story. I lost to her 5 times in a row. She was 9 years younger than me, I believe. And she was sort of the new improved Chrissie. And she came on the scene and, really just concentrated better than I did, and had a little more power than I did, and moved the ball around better. And she was hungrier, and I was kind of in my middle 20s. She was still a teenager. And a cute story though, because I lost her 5 times in a row. I was in the player room with Don Candy, who was Pam Shriver's coach. And Don Candy said, "Hey, Chrissie, are you looking forward to tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how are you going to play?" And I said, "I'm just going to play my game." And he goes, "Okay, then you're going to lose." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You played your game the last 5 times and you lost." He said, Tracy has been dictating the points every time she plays you, and you're on the defensive. You have to dictate the point right from the first shot. You have to come into the net more. You have to drop shot more. You have to go attack her second serve more. You have to be the one that's the attacking player. Now, I was like, oh boy, that was a big order, but I took it to heart. And the next day I went out and played her. I lost the first set 6-4, but I was doing everything he said. And it was only 1 or 2 point difference. I said, I'm going to keep at it. Second, third sets were 6-1, 6-1. And I realized something. I realized that I had relied on my defense and my counter punching and my wearing my opponents down for so long. But then I got to another level of being the one that was aggressive. And that was really a defining moment, I think, in my career.
Well, that's just fantastic. And that was such a emotional moment and such a neat crossroads. And you'd taken some time off earlier in the year and were just kind of figuring out what you wanted to be when you grew up. 1979, Chris Evert loses the US Open final to Tracy Austin. And 1980 comes back, beats her. 1984, Chris Evert loses the Roland Garros final to Martina, comes back the next year and beats her. So I think that just is a great lesson to people. I mean, there you are. You've been number 1 in the world for years on both those occasions, and you upgraded your game.
Well, and that's what I teach kids at my tennis academy. I say, look, you stay with a winning game and change a losing game. And trust me, I didn't do it. I didn't do it very well from losing to Martina 13 times in a row. I was very stubborn, and I thought I just didn't even think that I could change my game. But it is true. If you're losing, you've got to be brave enough to change your game and to do something out of the box. Even if you're not that familiar, you're not that comfortable with it, because you're going to lose if you keep playing the way you're playing. So, but no, it was interesting to go up another level of being a little more aggressive and taking a few more chances, a few more risks. And that helped me later on in my matches with Steffi Graf and Monica Seles. Same thing with Monica. I lost to her when she was 15, and then I beat her at the US Open like 6-love, 6-2, because I learned more from losses than I do from wins, and I learned how to change my game.
Again, another segue. We are just right in track here. This is great because you retired at the end of '89. Soon after, you went on to Fed Cup in Tokyo and all that, but pretty much in a way, your last grand public win was that great win over Monica.
Yeah.
Very great tennis. And then you began the next chapter that's going to leave a legacy maybe even greater than your Hall of Fame playing career. So let's explore some of that and first talk about Chris Evert Charities, the Celebrity Pro-Am, which has contributed over $26 million in an ongoing campaign against drug abuse and child neglect in Florida. You hear that, USIC people? 26 million. How did all that come about? How have you been able to magically raise this money, 800,000 in 2019 before the pandemic? And just give us a sense of the event, and also maybe a little bit of the fun parts of it too, because you've had some. That's been your career. You were like the NBA, and here you're kind of like, this is entertainment, but for a good cause. So take us inside that event and your work there.
Well, I after I retired, I realized, I was married to Andy, but I didn't have any kids, and I had a lot of free time on my side. And I'm like, oh, time to give back. I really couldn't give back and be super involved in a charity while I was playing. But I decided, and of course I talked to Bob Kane, who was my agent, and we came up with an idea to hold a pro celebrity tennis tournament to raise money. And I kind of researched a lot of different causes, and coming from South Florida, there was definitely a big epidemic of drug abuse down here. And I learned more and more about the fact that there was a need for a lot of treatment centers that didn't cost an arm and a leg. Not a lot of people can afford Betty Ford. Not a lot of people can afford the expensive rehab places that cost $30,000 a year. And so we decided that would be our charity. And I invited Martina, I invited all my tennis playing friends, and they came for a fun weekend. And then, I knew some celebrities. It's not like I remember that first year, I think we had Chevy Chase, and I knew President Bush, 41, very well. So he came about 6 years, he came. And we had like 8 players and 8 celebrities, and we play on the weekend, and we have a pro-am, and we have a black tie event, we have auction items. We had great sponsorship. So it was a collective effort. It just wasn't me. It was me. It was the pros, the celebrities. They did it for free. And, we've just been able to do it every year and raise a lot of money for a great cause.
But I think it also speaks again to some of the equity and goodwill you built over the way you conducted yourself over your career.
Look, I led a very privileged life, and I was very lucky to get into a sport that was created by Billie Jean and the original 9. And all of a sudden, everything opened up for women tennis players to make money, to travel the world. And I was on the receiving end of that, because that was a generation after Billie Jean and her group did all the work. And so I always felt like, a little bit like, I got to get back, because I'm getting so much out of the sport. And I still feel that way. I mean, there are a lot of people that are less fortunate and that were born into circumstances that is really tough to get out of. And I just think everybody's equal. Everybody deserves. And one of the reasons why I went into prevention of drug abuse is I feel everybody deserves a second chance in life, and there should be no judgment or stigma for drug abuse.
1996, you opened the Everett Tennis Academy, kind of built from the ground up with your brother John, and many ways inspired by your father, who taught you and all your siblings at the famous Holiday Park. So kind of the first tennis academy founded by a female, another.
Yay!
So
I've never heard that. You're the first person that said that.
Well, I got to
but it's true.
Our colleague Sarah with bringing that nugget to the I think that's a pretty great thing. Sarah Fornaciari with that one, and a mentor for a couple of generations of talented and determined girls and boys. How is that now for you being the coach? I mean, you were the player for so long.
Yeah. I had to relearn the game. The first few years I was with my brother, and we would be watching kids, and they'd be making errors, and I would be like, they can't make errors. Why are they missing so much? And John would look at me and goes, Chrissie, calm down. You're wired a little bit differently than these kids. The game has changed. They're working on going for shots. And I was like, whoa, just keep the ball in the court. But so I really, and the Western grips, and I just had to relearn. And by listening to my brother John and all the Everett Academy coaches, I sort of learned like how to coach this day's generation. And it is different, because it's more fearless, it's more aggressive. You got to go for your shots if you have an opportunity, and if you miss the ball, you got to forget about it. And serves are important, and I never had a big serve, but now they're very important, and I've loved it. I've loved it. But I think the mental side of it, I like the mentoring, the mental side of the game. I think I'm a little bit more effective than the physical side.
Well, the physical side is some new things, some techniques and swing shapes. But I don't know if I'm a 14-year-old, I don't need to talk to Chris Evert about how I'm taking my racket back, but I sure need to talk to Chris Evert about 3-all in third set. So what's some of your secret sauce for even connecting with those kids?
A lot of them, they can't win when they're ahead. Okay. They're up 6-2, 4-1, and all of a sudden their opponent starts playing great. Right. And then they wonder why they don't win. And they feel the match slipping away, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3. And the one thing I tell them is, okay, you've had 6-1, 4-2, 6-2, 4-1. You're changing sides. You've lost 2 games, and it's 4-3. Look at the scoreboard. Who would you rather be? And that's all I say. And they said, me. And I said, well, then play like that. I go, you got to expect your opponent to play better when they're losing, because they're either pissed off or they just go for broke and slap balls or whatever, and they loosen up. I go, just raise your game a little bit to meet theirs, So, I mean, they're little, I think, ideas that I can help them with. And I'm a stickler for getting your first serve in on a big point, and I always say that. And I'm a stickler for playing within yourself when it's, like you said, 4-all deuce. Play within yourself. Don't hit a shot that you're not used to hitting. Don't take risks if you don't need to. Whoever makes the least amount of errors in a match at your level, at the junior level, usually wins the match.
Interesting. God, to especially what an education for them just to be around someone like you. So, your generosity knows no bounds. You've been a caretaker. The USIC has benefited. The USIC Gene Scott Fund has partnered with the Everett Academy on several occasions. Right. Send a deserving aspiring young player to train your academy. Lauren Davis, top player, WTA. So on behalf of the USIC, we thank you for the bottom of our hearts for making room in your heart for our USIC scholar athletes. We're looking forward to raising the money to send some next Gene Scott scholar athletes to the Everett Academy ASAP. Really get some people great connection. So this year is significant. The original 9 finally getting into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, all of them. And of course, this happened, like you said earlier, this is kind of a little bit of the prologue. When you look back at that time, 1970, 71, 72, what stands out to you?
I was very young. I was a teenager. I was 16 and 17, and I was really not familiar with women's liberation. And, Gloria Steinem and Billie Jean and Bella and all these women who were fighting for equal rights. And I really was very naive and didn't understand half of what was going on. But a corner of my eye, I was always observing Billie Jean and Rosie and company, and envying them for being so fearless and for being so confident of what they wanted and their goals. But I just was a little too young to be a leader at that point. But as the years went on, Billie and Rosie slowly explained to me and guided me, and then I got it. Pretty much when I was early 20s.
Speaking of leadership, you stepped up. You were president of the WTA for 11 years. So first, what made you decide to do that?
I had no choice. Billie Jean told me I was going to be president. So I was like petrified of her. She was president for so many years. And one day she looked at me and she goes, okay, I'm going to be president this year, but you're going to be vice president and you're going to learn the ropes because the press only listen to top players. So you have to be president. So I was vice president. And then the next year I was president. And for a few years, I still didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was running board meetings and I was like pretending to know what I was doing, but I really didn't. It's like, but the press, but whatever decisions we made in those board meetings, I would deliver the message to the press and they'd listen. So I mean, it worked out. I was sort of the spokesperson, the figurehead. Maybe figurehead's a better word, rather than a working president who knew everything that I was doing. But so that was it. I mean, Billie Jean really encouraged me to be involved, and she's she was really incredible. I mean, we're so lucky to have had her in our sport, because if she was in golf or another sport, tennis wouldn't have been where it is today. How were you able to balance the competition's tremendous focus you had for competing with some of this leadership stuff? The leadership stuff was 4 times a year. We had meetings at all the Grand Slams. So pretty much it was easy peasy. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 hours during the Grand Slam, we would have the meetings. And as far as my tennis was concerned, I hated to lose more than I loved to win. So that came easy for me. I was like, ferocious out there, and every point mattered. Every point had value. So now 30, 40 years later, WTA is so dynamic, many playing styles. Tell me about some of the players you really like, regardless of who's doing at the French Open, just styles you're enjoying seeing play these days. I love Iga Swiatek. She's been a breath of fresh air. This year, I really hadn't heard much about her before she won the French Open in the fall. But she's come on strong, and she's fearless. She's young. She's outspoken. She's very pleasant, and I love her. Coco Gauff, I love her. She's really matured, I think, over the past few years, and it was inevitable. She has the it. She has the it factor. She is going to win Grand Slams probably sooner than most people think. I love that story about her, and then Serena's still going, for 24. What a great story that is.
Just for fun, is there an active player you'd most relish the opportunity to play?
I don't relish the opportunity to play anybody. I would certainly never want to play Serena. She would blow me off the court. It would be nice to play Ash Barty, because I feel like she's almost a little more modern version of Yvonne Goolagong, in the sense of, she can serve volley. She's got great touch. She's got flowing ground strokes. It would be fun to play her.
In closing, is there anything else, the to-do list? You've got the academy, the broadcasting, the charities, you're chair of the USTA Foundation.
USTA, yeah, foundation.
What else is on the Chris Evert radar wish list?
Well, first of all, that was really, the Gene Scott Scholarship kind of got me thinking, because when we had Lauren at the academy and she was working out and living with us, I was like, oh, we got to do more things like this. And so I got involved with the USTA Foundation, and we raise money for underserviced, underprivileged kids. They have somewhere to go after school. It's not only tennis, it's tennis and education and mentoring and all kinds of things, college prep and all kinds of things. And that's been a lot of fun for me. Also, it's been very challenging with the pandemic, because I haven't been able to travel to the different programs, but that's been a lot of fun for me. And, I think that, it's just all about giving, helping other people right at this point. And I think it transcends helping them as far as, okay, let me help you with your backhand. I want to help them with their goals in life, and I want to help give them opportunities. And that means a lot to me. That fulfills me.
Terrific. That is just great. So thank you. Great stuff. Lots of information. On behalf of the USIC, I just want to thank you for taking this time to talk with us and share some of your experiences and wisdom. So thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Well, Joel, I'm glad I did it with you. And thank you very much. You asked great questions. And thanks, Sarah, also for thinking of me.